So Cote, my impression of your job is that you talk about like big picture stuff, like industry trends. I'm thinking of the scene in Office Space right now where it's like, so what would you say you do here?
Okay.
Do you talk about, is that what you would say is the crux of your job, is to understand big picture type things?
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot at the start of the new year. You know, you go on a break and you come back and you're like, what am I doing here?
I relate.
And yeah, I think a large part of, for the purposes of this question, a large part of my job is relating trends going on in the enterprise infrastructure world. And kind of talking about them and figuring out how to have a helpful conversation about them that would interest our customers and buyers and people who are like influencers in my organization making money. And a part of that is like also, you know, just to talk about it. Which is to say, I don't sit around thinking about, this is worth 75 cents on the Johnson account, right? Like it's more of like, and I've actually been thinking about this. It's an interesting thing to hear myself answer your question on. I have been wondering, like, there are companies that over the years that actually have fine products and technologies and things to buy, but they don't show up to, I'm going to say, the industry, the community, the ecosystem, whatever word you want to use, and therefore they might as well not exist. Like the only channel that they kind of have to engage, the only channel they have to show their existence and, you know, kind of like have people interested in giving them money, being their customers, is like, I guess, their sales teams and press releases. And so like, I think a part of what I do is part of this like showing up, right?
Demonstrating relevance.
Yeah. Demonstrating relevance and understanding. And then also, you know, there's traditionally a role called they're usually called something, I don't know why they're called this, but it's what they're called. Why anything? They're usually called like a field CTO. And I don't really do that kind of thing. But what a field CTO is there for is like kind of like a drive-by cheap to free consultant, right? Where like, and you'll see this, like AWS has this group, Jana Werner, I think heads up or is on this group, right? They're like the who we had 2 episodes ago. We interviewed, and they're usually called like the strategists or the enterprise strategy people. And they come from industry, and when they're talking with their customers, and by customers I mean people that either are your customers, as I like to say, give you money, or who you would like to be your customers,
which is everybody.
Right. In general, I mean, yeah, sure, depending on what you're selling.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, I guess if you have the right kind of ERP system in place, if anybody wanted to give you money, you would accept it. You can do the processing. But yeah, so you know, every now and then I do that kind of like I talk with people ongoing and just like share industry stuff with them. So yeah, is the answer to your question. Yes.
And how does it tie into your analyst job at RedMonk? It seems similar.
Well, I mean, it's extremely similar in this. Whereas at RedMonk's a little weird because they give away a lot of they follow a freemium model, if you will. But that aside, they don't drive by, they come and sit by, I guess.
Okay.
So you actually pay them to give you advice and do things. So you pay them directly. They're not just doing it in the ongoing commercial relationship that you have. And then you know, a more traditional analyst company like a Gartner or a Forrester or IDC, et cetera, you just pay them more directly for access to their written up stuff, and then also for like, you know, 30-minute to 4 to 8 hour sessions with them where they're giving you advice directly.
And then would you say like that's where you get as your job, what's your job title? Whatever you say you are, your big picture thinking kind of job.
You know, because I've gone through several acquisitions and business unit changes, my current job title, I kind of don't know what it is, but it doesn't really. I think I'm something like senior technical product marketing manager, principal architect. And the last title that I had that was easy to say, but also didn't make sense, was senior member of technical staff. Which,
okay.
And then before that, when I was at Pivotal, I was just a director of marketing, which was the simplest title I've ever had. But of course, when you're a mid-sized company that's acquired by a big-sized company, they're always like, "Whoa, there's been title inflation here. You're going to be senior associate, junior architect of solution management." No, not management.
So how does someone of your great and small stature get that data? The data that you're using to identify industry trends.
Oh, the data. Well, data is a very artistic word to apply to what I have. I don't know. I just read a lot. Like I think in a recent interview, I used the phrase "read the internet," and that's what I do. I just read all the stuff, and then also there's a I guess you would call it a flywheel. I always think that term is funny, but there's a self-perpetuating thing of like, the more people you talk with, the more you end up knowing, and then the more people you talk with, and the more you end up knowing, and so you just keep doing that. It's people would call it being old. Or having experience.
Do you intentionally or unintentionally weight like a big study that has a lot of like real data backup more heavier than like someone's opinion?
Oh, do I give it more weight?
Yeah. Are you like, oh, here I'm reading this thing is an important thing, as Gartner report or whatever. These are the trends. These are the CNCF trends of whatever.
Yeah,
like, this is important versus like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer is yes, and the slightly less simple answer is, I spent, well, I wouldn't say a lot, as I was talking with our guest 1 or 2 years ago. I don't really delve too much into science because I don't understand it. But like, I do pretty much all surveys and reports I look at. The first thing I go look at is like the methodology, and then I look things up more, and I try to understand, like, I don't know, the terms, the demographics of people they talked with, all of that kind of stuff, just to like verify what I know, because there are a lot of surveys out there. And so giving a more detailed answer, like there's certain ongoing reports from let's say groups and then commercial interests that I don't really like look at anymore because I just trust them. But yeah, just like any new random survey that comes out, like if you read like CIO.com and CIO Drive, they're fine, but they'll pull in just surveys, just like one-off random vendor surveys, and write some article about it. And so generally, if I don't recognize the name of the company that's put out a survey, I don't really pay that much attention to it, because usually, well, they'll put it in a self. What is the self-making fun phrase? A self-deprecating way. Like, I've made those surveys, so I try not to read them.
I know exactly how little effort you put into that.
And to say I've made them, I've participated in the making of them, and so like I know the good sausage from the bad sausage, I guess.
Yeah, right on. So I think we've done enough to segue into our guest today. Nathen Harvey, will you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, tell us your take on everything we've been talking about.
All right, sure. So first, hi, I'm Nathen Harvey. I lead up a program at Google Cloud. That program happens to be called DORA. DORA is one of those people that puts out surveys that is talking about. And we publish annual reports as well as research throughout the year. And I don't know, this year's report it's no longer this year because we're in a new year now. We haven't published anything in the first 8 days of 2026. Yeah, but our most recent report, the 2025 DORA report, I don't know, it was 140, 150 pages long, and probably 15 pages of methodology. So, Kote, there's plenty for you to read there.
Yes. I read through it all with a mixture of glee and professional attention.
Yeah, there you go. And I think
A quick background question, which is like just what motivates companies to put all this time and effort and energy into these industry reports that are public?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question. So I think that to answer that, I don't know, from a DORA perspective, maybe we look a little bit at the history of DORA, if like, that's all right. DORA started as a research program 12, 14, 10 plus years ago at a company called Puppet. And this was at the very beginning of the DevOps movement. And there was someone, Alana Brown at Puppet, she was in marketing, and she said, there's this DevOps thing that people keep talking about. Is that real or is it just like a buzzword? I know what we can do to figure that out. Let's go run a survey across the industry and like see what people are actually doing. Are they actually doing anything? Is there a there? And so they launched the first ever State of DevOps survey, and they ran that, and then they wrote a report, and they published that. And the motivations were kind of twofold. Like, let's be very clear. Like, for the first was like, is DevOps real? Is it an actual thing that people are doing? But then you also think about, and what you asked about was sort of the motivation. Puppet was in this space of building infrastructure automation, which goes along with DevOps. And so like, we want DevOps to be a real thing, especially if it means we can sell more infrastructure automation. So let's bring them together. But the nice thing about what Alana did and what that original one did, and continues with DORA today, is that they didn't go out and ask like, hey, Cote, how's it going with Puppet? How are your manifests looking? Like, they didn't talk about specific products. They talked more generally and sort of were program and platform agnostic, if you will. So I don't really care which tools you're using, but like, how are you doing technology? How are you doing the DevOps? Let's talk about that. And so that was kind of the genesis of this. And over the years, it has always remained program and platform agnostic. There have been a number of different people that have sort of been leading this effort. So shortly after Puppet started it, they came in contact with someone who at the time was working in academia, Dr. Nicole Forsgren. She was a professor at a university and was like, hey, this is a cool survey that you did. And also maybe we could bring a little bit more of that science and rigor to the methodology and how you write survey questions and so forth. So she joined up that effort. Eventually, Nicole, along with a couple of other co-founders, Jez Humble and Gene Kim, founded a company called DORA, and they continued doing this research. And then just about 7 years ago, just over 7 years ago, Google Cloud acquired DORA. And so that research has just continued in this space. Like I said, we continue publishing reports. DORA used to be an acronym. It used to stand for DevOps Research and Assessment. Over the past few years, and I would say officially now, we have de-acronymed it. So what does DORA stand for? It stands for nothing. That doesn't sound right, does it?
Stands for excellence in IT.
No, it stands for our tagline. Our tagline is get better at getting better. We want to help teams and organizations go on this journey of continuous improvement. And if you want to improve something, you first have to understand, like, how is it today? And then you have to understand, well, like, what could we do to change that? And so that's what DORA is all about. We want to help technology-driven teams figure that out.
So is getting away from the acronym, I guess, then getting away from DevOps specifically, because you want to broaden the focus of, like, it's about developing to not just about operational concerns? Yeah,
I would say so. I would say that, early on, as I mentioned, like, it was all about DevOps because this was a brand new thing. Today, I would say that using the word DevOps kind of opens as many doors as it closes. Maybe it closes a few more doors than it opens, right? Just because it's been around in the industry for a long time. And quite frankly, I mean, if you look at what's happening in technology spaces over the last 2 years, it's AI, it's not DevOps. That's what we're all talking about.
Platform engineering and
we're
AI.
All trying to understand, right? Platform engineering, AI, exactly. And so the other thing that happened in 2025 was the name of the report that we published changed. Whereas it used to be called the Accelerate State of DevOps Report, this year's report was called the State of AI-Assisted Software Development.
So that is even more so focused on development and not deployment. Interesting.
Well, I mean, DORA has always had what I'll call a center of gravity around software delivery performance.
Yeah.
So how you develop informs how you're able to deliver, but it's not the only thing that informs how you're able to deliver, right? So there's always been this question of like, yeah, we can build things faster, but can we actually put them in front of customers any faster? We want to be able to do both.
That's cool. So before I ask anything about the 2025 report, I want to understand, in a good Cote fashion, like, how do you get that information? Why should I trust you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Why should you trust us? So the way that we get that data historically has, like, since the very beginning, has been running large global surveys where we reach out to as many people as we can get in contact with, and we encourage them, please take our survey, give us this data. So that's like the primary way that we get the data. But for the past few years, we've augmented that sort of survey-based collection with more qualitative interview style, right? And so in 2025, we had nearly 5,000 survey respondents. And those are professional, like people that are professionals working in the space of technology. So it might be a software engineer, but it might as well be a product owner, an executive, an engineering manager, an SRE. Like, we get a bunch of different folks in this space around building, delivering, operating software. And then we also had about 100 hours of qualitative data. So when you're a qualitative person, you talk about the number of hours, not the number of people that you talk to, right? So and kind of like Cote, I'm not the scientist. I learned from the scientist, and then I just.
Do people get invited to take the survey, or do you just kind of make it public and anyone who wants to can?
So yes and yes, we make it public. A lot of what we lean on is what's called snowball sampling. So like, hey, Whitney, I got this survey. You should take it. Oh, and tell your friends. And then Whitney tells Cote, and then Cote tells his friends. And so like, we build this snowball. There are pros and cons to that. We also, though, hire out, or have in the past hired out, firms whose job it is to like get people to take surveys. And so we can augment this sort of snowball sampling with people that these firms help us get. And one of the things that helps us with is, let's say that we're not seeing, I don't know, this isn't a challenge for us, but let's imagine that it were. In our snowball sampling, we aren't hearing from anyone that works in financial services. Let's pay someone to go get survey respondents from the financial services industries. Right. And so that's how we kind of augment. We want to get a more comprehensive view of what's happening. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. Yes. And then how do you choose who to ask the qualitative questions to?
Yeah. So there again, we largely lean on third-party firms that help us identify folks, and then we have a bunch of like screening questions. We don't want to ask a bunch of technology questions. Like a screening question might be something like, what version control system does your organization use? If you can't answer that, we probably don't want to talk to you deeper about whether or not you practice continuous integration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. So the report is 142 pages long. Right. And I'm guessing maybe a lot of our listeners haven't read all 142 pages. I skimmed them and prep for this interview. But I thought it'd be, instead of me trying to think what I think was important, I was interested to hear like what are the big takeaways from your perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So, as I mentioned, the title, it's the state of AI-assisted software development. So just like everyone else, we're trying to figure out like, what is the impact that AI is having? And one of the things, sort of the TLDR, if you will, of the report is that AI's role in software development is primarily that of an amplifier. So like, if you're in an organization that, let's go back to our core of our center of gravity, right? Software delivery performance. If you're in an organization or working on a team that has good software delivery performance and you throw some AI into the mix, it's probably going to get better. Whereas if you're struggling with software delivery performance and you throw some AI into the mix, you're probably going to struggle even more, right? And what might that look like? Let's say, for example, that one of the constraints you have in getting software shipped out to customers, that software, those changes have to be approved. And maybe you have a really heavyweight change approval process, whether that's code reviews or a change approval board or whatever. It doesn't really matter. Now introduce some AI to your software development. Guess what you're doing? You're developing, like you're building 10x, 100x more software. But it still has to go through that same approval bottleneck. So you've just made the problem worse.
So what I'm hearing, okay, I'm relatively new to tech. I'm solidly medium here. Right. And it seems like everything comes down to people and process and not about the literal technology. Over and over and over again, I'm seeing that. And this seems to be yet another case. Yeah. What do you say to that? Do you agree? Yeah.
I certainly agree. And this is again, why it's so important, I think, that and helpful that DORA is program and platform agnostic. It's not about the specific tools. And in fact, over the years, what we have found is that it really, it comes down to people and process. We in DORA have looked at the culture of organizations and like, what is culture and how do you measure it? Like one of the things that we look at is like, what's your organization's response to failure, right? Something goes wrong. Something goes wrong. What do? Do you figure out who to fire? Maybe that's not the best cultural environment to promote like experimenting and learning and so forth. And so a few years back, we looked deep into security and we found like the teams that had the best security, the number one predictor of better security practices was the culture of the organization, not which tools you use, not which industry you were in, but rather the culture of your organization. So yes, Whitney.
Anything specific about the culture lends itself to security?
It is that idea of risks are encouraged. When something goes wrong, we use that as an opportunity to learn, not as an opportunity to punish. We reward sort of collaboration within the organization, as opposed to like building an organization where information kind of becomes currency and like, I'm gonna keep this information over here because this is mine. This is
what gives me value.
This
if I know this thing.
Value. Yeah, you can't have it. I'm not going to share it with you. No, that's. And if you think about security, like think about security engineers, right? Like we often talk about security as the department of no. Like all they do is tell us no. And security engineers oftentimes agree with that. Like, yep, we end up being the department that says no, but we don't want to be. We don't want to be the place that's stopping you. Like we want to collaborate with you and create these better practices and capabilities within the organization.
Does the latest DORA report say much about how the huge, like you said, Gen AI, there's an explosion of code being written. Yes. And now the rest of the DevOps processes are struggling to keep up with that. How does security come into play? Are you seeing any results or like problems or
Yeah, so in 2025, we didn't dig deep into security. So I can't really speak to that given the data that we have.
I hear all the time like, oh my God, security. But then like everyone's worried about it, but I haven't seen problems yet or like what actually is happening there.
Yeah, I think a lot of the place where security will show up when it comes to AI is again having real concerns about what's happening with, let's say, the data or the context that we're giving to these AI agents or to the LLMs. Like, where's our data going? And is that data likely to show up? Like, is the data that the question that I ask, is that likely to show up later when you ask a question, Whitney? We don't work at the same place. That could be bad. So I know there are a lot of concerns around that. And one of the things that I guess the other thing that DORA does is we try to identify, like, what are the capabilities and conditions that make things better? Right? Okay. And so one of the things that we looked at this year and one of the findings that we have is that if you want AI adoption, to really help the outcomes that you care about. What are the outcomes you care about? I don't know. Things like software delivery performance, like you can ship more software faster and safer. You get better organizational performance. You have better well-being for the people on your team. If you want those sort of outcomes, one of the things that you can do together with AI adoption is make sure that you have a clear and well-communicated policy or stance on how and when and where and what AI you can use. And so that
makes
kind of,
sense.
there are some echoes of security there, right? Security team could say, like, these are the 3 approved tools. These are the only 3 that you can use. If that's not clear and communicated, that can cause some real problems, real friction within your organization.
And it's not even limiting necessarily. If you're like, tell your engineers you can use this tool, then they feel they're not cheating by using AI. I imagine
that's exactly right. What we also found, like, it, not only does having that clear and communicated stance help, but in the absence of it, it can be pretty harmful. Because I'm an engineer, and at home, I'm over here like playing with all these AI, and it's super fun. And then I go to work, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm allowed to use it, but I'm gonna, because it's better. And then I have to worry, like, am I going to get caught? Am I going to get punished for using this? And like, so it can have detrimental effects if you don't have that clear and communicated stance.
So I'm interested in hearing more what, especially with your long background in DevOps and also at the moment. I guess everyone has a background in the moment, so to speak. But like, you mentioned bottlenecks earlier, and I've come across, when I was reading the internet recently, I came across 2 kind of related things, trying to sort out. It's kind of the same thing. One of them was this guy, what's his name, Keith Townsend, the CTO architect. I forget. I should know his brand, but he's put together this playbook of like how to do AI and big enterprises. It's kind of his consulting thing, and he kind of invoked the old the people are the problem thing, except in an enterprise context of like, you need approvals and governance and who's responsible for this and so forth and so on, which, my instant reaction was like, well, this is the problem with enterprise software. Where, we're bringing all the baggage that we're trying to get rid of. But
the people are the solution, is what I'm hearing.
It's sort of like one way of reading that kind of stuff is like, this isn't ready for the enterprise because it doesn't have enough bureaucracy in it, right? Like, we need to add the bureaucracy and then it will be ready. But then there's this other, I haven't read this paper. I don't know, it's something about O-rings or something, which maybe means something to academics. But it was suggesting that, like, and this is what made me think of your DevOps history and whatever is not whatever, et cetera. And but it was like, so if you think about automation, like AI is doing, whenever you automate one task in a process, that's great. And then you reach another bottleneck, and then the people who are doing that bottleneck become even more valuable because that's holding up the entire process, and they become even more valuable and more valuable until they're automated and then they're worth 0. Right. And so maybe there's a little bit more to the paper, but it was making me think of you and I and other people lived through this with DevOps, where it was like, we're going to automate the entire thing and all of the operations people are going to be fired. And it doesn't seem like, based on the revenue that the IT industry currently has, that didn't actually happen. And so anyways, like, it does seem like there's 2 paths for like AI stuff, whether it's narrowed down to programming. One of them is just like everything is automated and we're all gone. Or it's sort of like, only some things are automated. And then, this is kind of the optimistic thing. And therefore, people are free to do more valuable work. And I don't know, has that come up or has that come out somewhere where you could have a sense of like, are people more free to do more valuable work, or are they free to go home early and not work? Like how is that? There's some economic term for this, but how is that benefit of AI productivity manifesting itself? Like, how do people cash out on that?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting question. And the answer is like, it manifests itself in so many different ways. One thing I like, the super optimistic approach here is like, yes, it allows you to do like it allows you to spend more time on doing valuable work,
Right.
or maybe it even allows you to go home a little bit early, right? Maybe that's
A little bit of both. Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it allows you to take a walk in the afternoon so that you can actually think about a problem in a different way. Like all of those are good things. And so maybe all of that happens. There's also this idea that, well, because I can do things faster and I can automate a bunch of things, like maybe I can get closer to building the right thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to just building the thing. Like, so one of the sort of capabilities that we talk about that helps unlock AI adoption is having a user-centric focus. So understanding who are your users and what do they actually want is very different than what's the next task that I'm being asked to build? Like, what's the next thing in this feature factory? Let me just build that and ship it. So if I can understand my users better, maybe that's good. But I think there's also some other really interesting research in this space. In fact, Multitudes, they just published a paper where they showed, they tracked a bunch of different, they tracked like 5 different cohorts of organizations that were doing this AI adoption. And they kind of watched the AI adoption over time. And one of the things that they saw was that as folks were adopting more AI, they were opening up more pull requests. So like, oh, that's cool. Like developers are doing more work. That's what we want, right? But the other piece that they found was that developers were opening more pull requests outside of regular office hours.
Wow.
So like evenings and weekends. And so the optimist in me was, because I was talking with them about it, I was like, oh, well, of course, because this AI, like building with AI, it's super fun. And so like, I'm going to go ahead and do it in the evenings because yeah, I've got meetings during the day, so I can do my real work in the evenings and I'm more productive. And they, just like us, have a lot of qualitative data, like a lot of interviews. And in their interviews, a lot of what they found was that, yes, I'm opening up more PRs out of band, out of business hours, in part because I'm feeling more pressure to open up more PRs because I now have this tool that's helping me be more productive. And so there's this really interesting sort of way that plays.
That's when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to become a good measure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I cherish. I like the idea of like if I'm 10% more productive, that means I do 10% less work. But I think thinking through the sort of height of DevOps automation, the point was if we can deploy our software 50% faster, that means we should, do I do this math correctly? We should have 2 more versions, right? Like we should, instead of like just shipping what we currently worked on faster, that means we get to start all over again, right? I mean, not start all over again, but we do the next version and we can do more experiments and that's what you do with that productivity is just as you were saying, you, to make it unhelpfully brief, you get better, but you do more experiments and do code. And I don't know if I've maybe I don't know. I haven't come across like that notion in like AI stuff that like this means we can do more software. It's still sort of like the replacative sort of thinking that people do with it.
What I don't understand about the faster metric is that it assumes the code quality is the same. Like, I feel like AI helps us go faster, but you might sacrifice code quality. Maybe, yeah. In fact, you're likely to probably. Well, how does that play into it?
Yeah, that's really interesting because going back to those measures of software delivery performance, that core center of gravity for DORA, we measure software delivery performance using 2 different factors. One is throughput, so like how much can you ship? And the other is stability. So when you ship, like, is it stable? And the way that we measure stability is we say like, when you ship, how often do you have an oh shit moment? Like I hit the deploy button and then I shouted out, oh shit, well, I'm going to roll that thing back. Like that's probably an indicator that maybe should not have gone out, right? And so what we saw in 2024, so I'm going to go back 2 years now, as you used more AI, throughput went down. Stability went down. So you were slower and you were more likely to roll back those changes. In 2025, what we saw is that throughput increases generally. So you're shipping more frequently, but stability still goes down. So you're still rolling back things more frequently. So this goes to your point there, Whitney, around like, is the quality good? Well, maybe we don't have and this is like, again, coming back to some of the capabilities that you need in order to improve that, you need good, fast feedback, fast quality feedback, right? So think about automated testing. Do we have good automated test frameworks in place that can help us validate these changes before we put them in front of users? And I think this is another one of those things that you see in just my own lived experience working with AI. If I'm working in a repository that has good automated tests, the AI maybe sometimes is smart enough to just go execute those tests. Sometimes I have to tell it, execute those tests to make sure that the changes that you made aren't breaking things. But having that in place gives me a lot more confidence in this change than not having those tests in place.
And that goes back to what you originally said about organizations with good processes and platforms are benefiting more from AI.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
AI
right. Yep.
has more room to.
It's that amplifier. Yeah.
So,
really,
how does the DORA team use AI stuff itself? Like what?
Yeah.
From the most boring and practical to the weird and interesting. Like what? I assume you use Gemini, since it's probably at your fingertips. But what do you guys do with it?
Yeah, we definitely use Gemini, and we use Gemini and AI for basically, like, if you think about the life cycle of our reports, like, it's every step of that life cycle. So that might be, hey, we're thinking about assessing user-centric focus. AI, help me brainstorm some questions that we might ask to assess whether or not a team or an individual is focused on their users. Or here are some questions. Here's a rubric on how we evaluate questions that we have in the survey. A simple example of like what makes a bad question in a survey is if it's what we call double-barreled. Do you like apples and oranges? And you can answer yes or no, right? And like maybe you like apples, but you don't like oranges. So what do you answer to that? Is it yes or no? And so like, we'll use AI to help vet the questions. Like, is this asking only one thing? And is it a well-formed question? We'll then augment that with some user testing that we'll do. Like, we'll put this in front of a user and then we'll ask them a bunch of questions about the question that we just asked them and how they answered it to make sure that it's asking the thing that we think it's asking. But AI will help with that. We certainly are using AI in some of our data analysis, just to like pull all of this data together and understand how's that going. We're using AI to help. AI, to be very clear, AI is not writing our reports. Like humans write our reports, but just like a software developer writes code, that software developer might be augmented or like using AI to help them with that. We will use AI to help us write our reports, maybe to help that, like edit the reports, etc. Yeah.
And then like you're saying, it's the first one was when it was the DevOps report, not DORA. Was in like 2011, 2012 or something like. So depending on the history of acquisitions and changes of hands, y'all have a lot of data there. Like raw data. Like, have you like loaded it all up into like Notebook ML and been like, what do you make of this? Like,
so I would say that I definitely have a Notebook LM, not Notebook ML, but Notebook LM. We got to get the brand names right here.
We're not running factories. We're running knowledge.
Right. Exactly.
Something. Okay.
Yeah. We will use Notebook LM to look at. I don't know. I have a Notebook LM with all of the reports from all of the years, and we use that to help inform a bunch of things, like looking for trends across the years, looking for whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So how, like with that, I don't know, I can't do math this fast. 15 years of PDFs, and even if you put your CSV or your Excel files, whatever in there, like, does that work? Like how, or let me ask it another way. How do you make it work in the sense of getting something out of it? Because that seems like a weird pile of data to like Or it almost seems like too much data to trust that it can do something with it. But
yes,
does it? I don't know.
And this is where I think, like, I don't know, it's similar to writing software. Like, you have to ask it the right questions. Like, if you're just like throw 15 years of like 15 annual reports into a thing and are like, tell me, what does it say? Like, that's too broad of a question. Right. So you've got to like ask it a different question. Like the prompt, the prompt matters, right? The questions that you're asking matters. So yes, it can be a lot, but you bring with it your human context and like the problem that you're trying to solve, and then you can get some value out of it. And
then do you have a sense, you and the team and you, whatever, collectively, like,
sure.
So if you're going through your mind, like, okay, I'm going to construct some crazy Rube Goldbergian thing, but like, let's say we've got 15 years of doing surveys. They were done by different people, slightly different, mindsets and methodologies, like throughout the years. Like, how do you evaluate? What we should do first is spend a day to clean up this stuff and then give it to the AI, versus like, just give it to the AI and let it sort it out. Like, does that occur very much where you have to strategize? Like, first we got to just like load it into Google Sheets and clean it or something like that?
Yeah, I would say that it definitely, like, there's definitely some of that. And again, I think it just comes back to like, what are the types of questions that you're trying to ask of this, right? If I'm trying to look at trends over 15 years, like, then I probably want all of it. If I want to ask it questions about, I don't know, Whitney, you asked a question earlier about like security. I happen to know the 5 reports that talk about security. I'm not going to give it all 15 because I don't want to like making up shit from reports that don't talk about security. Just here are the 5. Like, now bring all of these together into a cohesive story, or answer this particular question or what have you.
Yeah.
What's valuable to learn from data 15 years ago, do you think?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think I'll be honest. I think it's a little bit sad how much has changed and how much has stayed the same.
Yeah, right? I believe that.
And honestly, I think one of the biggest mistakes that DORA has made is every year when we publish a report, one of the things that we put on the cover of that report is the year that it was published. Because you can go back and read the 2014 report and you will find that there are things in there that are valuable today, that makes like things that we are still continuing to learn as a collective industry. Right. And that doesn't mean that everyone hasn't learned them yet, but there are still practices and capabilities and things that teams can do to improve. I mean, think about, I don't know, something like test-driven development. Like, how long have we talked about test-driven development as an industry? And like, we understand the value of it, or pair programming.
Well, dude, can I be honest? You've been talking about user-centric, and I'm just like, wait, how is that new? That seems like duh. Is there something? Maybe I'm being foolish. Yeah, I don't get it.
I love that you say it feels like duh. Like, I do think that a lot of what DORA uncovers every year, like what we report, are the obvious things. But the reality is that, kind of twofold, they're not obvious to everyone. Because if they were, they would be universally adopted. Right.
Yeah.
And so we do see huge variation in our sample set of people that are using these things and people that aren't. And so when we go and we find the like, well, duh, we now also then have some data that we can back up to say, like, when you do this thing that we generally agree is a good thing, here's the outcomes that you can get. And here's how we can connect those two. And so now maybe, as that practitioner who's sitting there and being like, oh, I know from my lived experience, from reading the internet, from whatever, that there is a better way, but I can't convince the people around me to try this better way. Now I have data from DORA that I can go and say, look, here's what's happening across the industry. Here's how we can improve. And they have data to back it up. So it's not Nathan's crazy idea. It's an idea that's backed up from industry data. And that maybe maybe I'm hopeful that helps.
I relate to that.
Yeah.
To help me understand the user-centric thing, can you describe to me a process that's not user-centric, or what people are doing instead of that?
Yeah. So there were definitely software teams, like development teams, who their job is to like take features off of a backlog, build those features and ship them. And they are completely disconnected from like the why of the feature. I don't know what the feature is. I don't care what the feature is. Like, my job is to take that thing off of the backlog, sit down and write some code, and then push it down the line. And I'm being incentivized to do that. I'm being incentivized to close more tickets. I'm being incentivized to, ship more code. But also, like, what does ship code mean for me? It means I hand it off to QA.
Okay.
And now I'm done. So like, I don't care what happens from here on out. That is someone that is not working in a way that cares about what the user is and what the user experience is, or even what happens to their code as it gets closer and closer to the user. And to be very clear, like, that's not necessarily the fault of that individual. It's the system that they're working in. Like, they're being like, you get like, all right, I'm going to go outside of tech for a minute. I'm going to tell you a story. Early in my career, I was working in a supply chain software company, and so we helped people improve their supply chain. We worked with one organization that was a consumer packaged goods organization. One of the consumer goods that they packaged was breakfast cereal.
Okay, love it.
And so we talked to a couple of different people in that organization. One of the people that we talked to was the plant manager, like the person responsible for production, and one was the inventory manager, the person responsible for inventory. And so we said to the inventory manager, like, how do you get your bonus? And we're like, it's easy. Just-in-time deliveries is what we want. Someone takes a box of cereal off the shelf, we put a box on the back. If I have no inventory in the system, I get a bonus. And then we talked to the plant manager and we said, how do you get your bonus? And he was like, it's easy. It's by tonnage of cereal that I produce every quarter.
Right.
And so you're coming to the end of the quarter and you're the plant manager and you're not going to hit your bonus. You want to look out for you and your team. You have a choice. You could make puffed rice cereal, or you could make bran flakes with raisins. What are you going to make? You're going to make
the heavy cereal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every single time. And have you ever had a Raisin Bran treat? Right? So you're actively doing the right thing for yourself and for your team, and potentially harming the overall outcomes of the system, and in particular harming that inventory manager's potential to get their bonus and get their promotion. Right? And so that's a non-tech way of working that is not user-centric. So now if you just tie that back to, like, I think you can maybe draw the parallel there to how a software engineer might work.
Is there a parallel to Gen AI? Are you also saying that now the value of humans in the system is to understand the mindset of other humans that will be eventually consuming the software? I would
say yes, that is a good value of the humans, but also, like, maybe we get a lot of feedback from users. Maybe we can use AI to summarize that feedback because AI is pretty good at that, like taking a lot of data and summarizing it in a way that's easily consumable by humans or maybe even other AIs. Like, maybe we can start leveraging AI to get a better understanding of how our users are interacting with our systems. Are they getting value out of it? When are they leaving and never coming back? And, like, why? Maybe AI can help us start to discover some of that.
I may or may not have fed the 142-page DORA report to
AI. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely did that, and it's interesting. And threw it into Notebook LM and said, "Give me a podcast about this report." Let me listen to that. And
so that's related to something I was thinking as you. Side note disclaimed or whatever, like, we have humans write the report, which is great, is like, well, why? I think about this a lot because I write things, and sometimes I think, like, even this morning I was mentioning that O-ring thing. I had it like look at these those two different things I mentioned, And I was like, can you write me a blog post on this? And first I wanted to do it so that it was easier for me to read and understand. And then I thought, I should just publish this. Like, this is something I would want to read, which is basically my criteria for most content I produce. But I still, even though I'm probably way on the side of like AI enthusiast, optimist, whatever, maybe not like crazy West Coast people, but like, I still know I shouldn't do that. Right? Like,
not verbatim. Yeah.
And by should, I know that I will be shamed. And I was mildly shamed recently when I did something like that. And it just seems like, but I don't think that's the case. Right? Like, and I also know, but I also believe that, yeah, I mean, if in 2026, you were like, this was 100% written by AI, that would be the story for the DORA report this year. Wouldn't matter what was in it. That would be the only thing people talked about for 5 years. Yeah. Right. And I don't think that is right. Like it. So I don't know. Like, how do y'all think through that?
Yeah, I think that we, I mean, I don't know, for myself, like, I'm not going to, like, I don't know, let's go back to DevOps and building and shipping things. Like, I'm not going to download something off the internet, put it in production and see what happens. I'm going to look at that thing first, right? And so, yeah, I'm going to use AI to help write something. And maybe it will start with AI and then I will fine tune it. Maybe I will write it and I will have AI clean it up. Maybe it's a little bit of both. And I really look at it as a partner in this creation. I do think that there's reason that there is shame, Cote, and like you took that AI and you shipped it like without reading it yourself. Like, please don't do that.
Well,
you should be shamed. You should be shamed for that. Right?
Yes, respect my time.
I agree. I'm going to go put myself in the corner. But you know, maybe as the main workhorse, so to speak, right? Like but you know, as you're saying, like, of course I would read through it, but sometimes it's just sort of like this with a few edits or having it do it 5 more times or like editing it with it. Like, this is great. But then, I mean, I'm repeating myself, but then the expectation is like, nope, you're wrong. Right. Like, and to pile on to my, questions that end in a period. Like, I think about this a lot in the internal corporate world where in theory, in internal facing corporate stuff, the point is to get to an outcome, right? Like, not to be poetic. And so to some extent, that should be the place where there's absolutely no shame in using AI responsibly, like we were saying. And maybe, I don't work in an organization that does this, but maybe there are organizations where you're starting to see that with like meeting summarizations, like where we just have the audio recording of the meeting and then we email out the meeting summary. And at best, there's someone who looks through it to make sure it's not bozo work, right? And maybe at second best, it's in an editable wiki thing somewhere and people can go comment on it. Or we don't do anything and it's fine. but then, so even there, like when I think through this scenario, so you could increasingly see how just like, there must be some name for this. It's not like one shot. It's sort of like I have it generate it and I read over it and then I send it, right? Like, I don't really do very much to it. But then if I extend that to types of communication you have, I think if you send the email of like, we just laid off 300 people, you have to write that, right? Like, so, and I bring that up as like that switchover, that there's something there as far as like how we think about like what we could do this one-shotting thing with. And I don't know what it is yet. What do you think? Yeah,
I think, like, honestly, I think we're all learning that collectively right now, like in real time. And I think we're experimenting with it also. Like, to your point, I don't know, I was in a meeting in December and I didn't take any notes. I let Gemini take all the notes. And then it was done and there was someone who wasn't at the meeting and I wanted to send them a follow-up. I asked Gemini to help me write that email that looked at the meeting transcript and its own meeting notes. And like, yeah, of course,
Right.
of course that's happening. But I didn't like, I don't know, and maybe this is one of those user-centric things. Like, I knew that if I just said, hey, Kote, you weren't at the meeting, here's the transcript. I knew what you would do with that transcript. And it's probably what I would do with that transcript. Absolutely nothing. Right.
That's right.
So let me do the work. And maybe not just me, but me and my tools are going to do the work to summarize that for you and pull out the important points that I think are important and things that I need you to respond to or want to make sure that you see.
Yeah, bringing up the user-centric thing, that's an interesting way to think about it. Is like, so when you're thinking about whatever it is I'm talking about here, using AI as the primary author and not being shameful about it. Like, try to take the user-centric view and figure out who the user is, and if you're making like, bran flakes with raisins or Rice Krispies. Like, like is this helping the user out?
Who's the audience?
I have thoughts about this. I think if you're using an LLM to make a summary or notes or summarize, like make it shorter, and you be honest about that and deliver an outline. Don't take something and make it prose and make it feel like your own language and yourself. Just like, I had AI summarize this. You're going to feed my prose into something to make it shorter. So let's just be honest here. Here's an outline of the bare minimum you need to get this done. Also, we spend less tokens that way. So good on us.
Whitney's always obsessed with tokens.
And then similarly, like with the 142-page DORA report, I'm one of hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have run that through an LLM to summarize it for me.
Yep.
So maybe in giving that report, maybe you want to own the summary. And I don't mean DORA specifically, like anyone giving some sort of long form content. Maybe I'm like, hey, for those of you who are going to summarize this, let me own the summary. So that way I have control over the narrative. I know nothing big is getting missed. Like, if I really want to convey this information to you, I will use an LLM and I'm going to keep it succinct. And that's how I'm showing that I'm using an LLM and respecting your time. And if you want to hear the long form human version, you read it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that does naturally happen, right? We publish the report. We don't just like send out a URL to everyone. There's a blog post that goes out that summarizes the report, that tells you to download the report. So there's a thing that AI probably helped write. Here's a blog post. We're going to share that on social. Oh, the blog post is too long for social. Let's write some social posts and let's use AI to help with that. But we're also, we also, as we're writing the report, it's broken down into chapters. We want those chapters to kind of stand alone. Like, it starts with an executive summary. So you don't want to read the whole thing, read the executive summary. I cannot own the summary because even if I write an executive summary, someone's just going to give the executive summary to an LLM and say, summarize. Like, we're always going to be summarizing. Like, I can't control that. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But then we also, like, I don't know, we have conversations within DORA. We have the DORA community. This is thousands of people that are coming together regularly to talk about some of these findings and how do you put them into practice, and like, what was your experience? What blockers did you run into, Whitney? Like, so it's a conversation that happens throughout the year as well. And I think all of that is what makes it healthy, and it is important. And yes, AI is used in some of that. It is, and it is very much a human thing in other parts of that. Like,
and different people find different parts important, so it's hard to summarize everything for everyone. Okay. Yeah.
It's also like, it's hard for DORA to tell you what to do, because all of our findings, like, we go out and we research the world, or as much of the world as we can find, but none of you work for the world. You all work within an organization, and then within that organization, you work on a team with a specific set of customers and maybe a specific. So you have to contextualize our findings down anyhow if they're going to be meaningful for you.
Yeah, that I think that adds another thing to the pile here of, well, let's say, sadly for you and the team, that all those reports didn't exist. Yeah. But you did have, in this weird fantasy world, you did have the data sets for each year. And if you were to give that data set to Notebook LM, not the other one.
Yeah.
Like it probably wouldn't come up with but it probably wouldn't come up with those 180 pages. Like who knows what it would come up with, right?
Exactly.
And so if you had a team of people working with it, it might come up with something like that. I mean, not that the 180 pages is the one true revelation of all this data, but I haven't really experienced in all these years using AI stuff with piles of text, it like coming up with a new idea, right? Or like a new interpretation of something.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where, it seems like it's good to have a bunch of smarty pants humans in the loop, so to speak, who are doing things and working with it as just like one other node in the system that it has.
Yeah, for sure.
So just as a little like maybe one or two DevOps questions since you and I, Nathan, long history in the DevOps world.
Yeah.
Do you think that the notion we've mentioned this kind of several times? I forget what we used to call it. I think at one point we called the pipeline of value stream, and then some other things. And there's some other words that people have used, like Mick Kirsten came in and introduced the word flow, and then there's that delightful guy who's like Mr. Flow guy, and then there was a secure software supply chain with DevSecOps.
Yeah,
we have all these names for like the metaphorical process, the factory that goes from idea to a person clicking on something or tapping, I guess now. And like, has that idea like evolved, or does the name just change for it?
Well, honestly, in both the 2025 report and the sort of supplementary or companion guide that we published in December, we talk about value stream mapping in both of those reports. So I don't know that the name has changed. In fact, I was giving a conference talk and someone asked this question because I said, like, you need to understand the value stream. Like, you need to map out how does software go from an idea all the way through to a customer saying thank you. And someone raised their hand. They were like, didn't we do that 50 years ago? Like, that's not new, is it? I'm like, no, it's not new, but we still need, it's still valuable. It's still valuable work for us to do, because we need to understand where is the pain, where is the friction, where are we getting hung up? Because then we can decide best, where do we apply automation? Where do we change the process? Where do we eliminate this step? You can't. It's better, you're better informed on those decisions when you have a full picture.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, it seems like that way of thinking gets applied to different areas, the whole like security and things like that. But value stream mapping. Good phrase. Figure out where the hyphen goes in there. I go look at my grammar rules. So then the other thing, like you've always been big into like DevRel and community management and things like that. And I think probably, I don't know. I mean, DevRel's always been big with programmers, but like there was a significant moment in DevRel history when DevOps came around, and there were like DevOps DevRel people. Like that was a whole kind of a newish thing. And like, how do you think like? How do you think DevRel is like different nowadays, or how is it done differently than it used to be done, or is it the same? Is it like value streams? Like, is there, if you were like running a, like your coworker Richard Seroder, who we've talked with, I think among other things he runs some Google Cloud DevRel. Like, how would you run that team nowadays differently than you would have back when you were at Chef?
Oh, that's interesting. I think that I'm not sure that I would run it differently. Like the things that I think really matter, and I think this maybe leans more, I don't know. It's back to the people, right? It's how do we create this community of people that have a shared concern and have shared way of addressing these concerns and can learn from each other and share with one another. Like building that community, I think, is so super important. And that community, I think, also transcends specific products, right? And that's where, like, I did a similar thing at Chef that I do today with DORA. I try to bring people together to learn from one another and make their lives and the outcomes that they're achieving better. We do that with the tools at hand. So whether that's AI or infrastructure automation or software development practices, it doesn't, like, It doesn't matter. I mean, of course it matters, but like that's sort of the grounding that we have. And then we build those experiences, we build those muscles together as a team or as a community.
Do you think like I don't know what to call it, for lack of a better phrase, like the CRM technology has advanced enough that like DevRel people would like interact with it more? Like, you know, like in the DevOps days, like it's not like you would have your DevRel people get a Salesforce account and go, well, I hope not, and go update records like after they were at like a DevOps days. But like, I haven't really checked in on this, but in theory, you could just like take some notes and give it to an AI, and then Agent Force does something. I don't know. Is that because it seemed like the ickiness of getting close to the salespeople for DevRel was maybe just more because it was tedious, right?
Oh,
and you didn't want it to like shade your like, I'm trying to hustle and sell you something, but it would be kind of cool to update the notes if you talk to a major account.
I mean, and I think that this is this. I mean, wow, we could do a whole other episode on developer relations and developer advocacy and so forth. But my personal approach to it has always been that like I've been a developer advocate in a couple of different organizations, and I've played that role many times. In all of those organizations had one thing in common: they wanted customers. They wanted people to pay them money. And I think that like trying to separate developer advocacy and developer relations from selling a particular product, like causing a good outcome for the business that is employing you, I think trying to separate those two things is a bad idea. And so I don't know, personally, I do have an account in our Salesforce thing. And like, helping a team unlock value from a product that we have is different than going and trying to convince a team to pay us money for a product that we have. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, you know, maybe it's a long story, but as I was putting this together, I was thinking like, so like you said, the DORA report started at Puffett, and then you were at Puffett arch rival Chef.
Yes.
So how did it end up that like you're the DORA lead now? What happened, Nathan? How did this happen?
So it's even more curious than that, because I mentioned that Dr. Nicole Forsgren left academia and came into industry and was working on this thing. Well, she was hired by Chef. So while she was working at Chef, Puppet was publishing the State of DevOps report. Nicole eventually left Chef and founded DORA. And then I went to Google Cloud from Chef, and about a month and a half after that, Google Cloud acquired DORA. So I like to say that was my doing, because I'd been there for a month and a half. It was
your influence just seeped through the system. Exactly.
The reality is I had nothing to do with it, but that doesn't prevent me from saying that it was my doing, right? And so I had worked with Nicole at Chef. Like the very first State of DevOps survey I participated in, because it was back when I had a real job. Like I was on call, I was managing real systems, not this developer advocate sort of role, right? I was doing real work. Developer advocacy is real work. All right. So I've been involved with DORA, at least on the fringes, for a long, long time. When Nicole and Jez and Sue all came to Google, it was a little bit of a reunion. We all got to work together again because we'd all worked together at Chef. And I care deeply about DORA, and I see the value that it brings to the entire industry. And so I've just been attached, and I've been lucky to be able to lead it for the past few years.
That makes a good, very in a good way, very typical like career story, in the sense of like, people are good to talk to. Is
it your job all year round to think about DORA?
Yes.
Like as soon as this one's done, you're planning the next one? Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, and DORA is in my mind, in my view, DORA is more than a report. Right? It's this community that happens. Like the community doesn't stop. They might sleep, Like collectively we might sleep, but it's a global community, so maybe we're always awake. I don't know. Like this idea of improving and iterative improvements and learning together and getting better at getting better, like that doesn't stop. We have sort of moments in time where we publish things like an annual report, but we're always doing the work. We're publishing smaller research articles throughout the year in addition to the big reports. So DORA is, I don't know, it's more than just the reports. And so, yes, it is the thing that I focus on all year long.
Is it like a literal community that people can join and be part of it? Yeah. How do people find that? And what's the benefit? And who are the people?
For sure. So if you go to dora.community, there you will find the DORA community. What is the DORA community? Well, it is a mailing list. There are about, well, we don't publish the numbers, of course, but there are over 4,000 practitioners, leaders, researchers that are all coming together on this mailing list to debate and talk about and learn from each other about the findings of the DORA report. Like one of the sort of evergreen topics that comes up, one of the software delivery performance metrics from DORA is your change lead time. So about 3 to 5 times a year, someone starts a thread that says, all right, let's talk about that change lead time. When exactly does it start? And when does it end? Like, is it on pull request? Is it when you write your first commit? Is it when after the tests have passed? Like, when does that start? So we have long debates on that in the community forum. We also regularly get together for online meetings. So just earlier today, we had Heidi Waterhouse come to the DORA community meeting. She presented on her new book that she wrote with some co-authors, Progressive Delivery. So she gave a short presentation about progressive delivery, and then we had an open discussion around that topic. And we used Lean Coffee as our format. So if you're familiar with open spaces, it's kind of whoever shows up, we get to propose the topics and we create the agenda for the bulk of that meeting. So that's what the DORA community is all about. And yes, you can, and darn it, you should join that community.
Yeah, it's great. Like I think a few years ago I had some questions about DORA stuff, and there's a great there's good replies there. It made it make sense to me, or at least sorted it out. It was good. And then you'll also you still do workshops here and there, right? Like at DevOps days here and there. So sure. There to endorse what you're saying, it's true. There is like this whole other community aspect it's more than just PDFs that's out there, which is not always evident if you're very PDF centric.
Yeah,
for the PDF centric people.
Totally. And I like, look, I love the PDFs. I love the reports that we do. But the thing that I really like is seeing how people are taking those insights and putting them into practice within their own organizations. And the beautiful and the terrible thing about that is that there are hundreds, probably thousands of organizations around the world that are doing that I have no visibility into. Like I'm more excited about the people that are reading the reports and then going to try something new on their team that I never get to meet. I'd love to meet every single one of them and help amplify their stories and learn together with them, so that, because that informs what we're going to research next year and so forth, right? It is this flywheel, Cote, if you will.
That's right.
Where we're learning from each other, and like that's it. The reports are like, they are awesome. They're super cool, and I'm very proud of them. They're a small part of what we do.
Well, speaking of things that we're proud of,
yes,
this has been another episode of Software Defined Interviews. Now, before we wrap up, now, Nathen, if people wanted to, we mentioned several DORA things: Dora.community, Dora.dev. I assume you've got some other domain names, but what if they're interested in Nathen? Do you have a homepage on the World Wide Web that you would send people to?
Probably not. Not necessarily a homepage. I don't know. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Blue Sky. You'll find me in the DORA community, on GitHub. The only thing to know,
the various Twitter diasporas.
Yeah, exactly. But if you are looking for me and you're just listening to this episode, you have to understand that my father misspelled my name. So it is Nathen Harvey, Harvey. But if you search for me, you'll find me.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Easy person to find on the World Wide Web. Well,
Indeed.
Also what's easy to find if you know the URL are the show notes for this episode, which is softwaredefinedinterviews.com/118. And we'll put links to several of those things there. And thanks for being on. That was really fun, of course. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.